Now, this is a major concept in real estate. The first thing we need to realize about real estate is why do you invest in real estate? Why is it 70% of the millionaires became millionaires in real estate? You ever wonder that? That's a big number. That's huge. So why is it that that happens? Well, there's a very specific reason. And it's based on human nature, number one, combined with our government laws. Our government laws allow for real estate to create wealth much faster. You go to other countries that don't have our laws, it's not going to be the same with real estate. So it's our laws combined with human nature. So let's go into what we're talking about here. Number one, top 5 reasons is passive income. The goal, when I deal with clients, I say, what's the only thing you need to do to retire? Most people think they need $1 million or $2 million or $5 million or $10 million in the bank. That's not true. Your passive income to exceed your fixed expenses. That's it. That is it. Retirement and freedom. And I don't suggest retirement at all. When I say retirement, I'm really talking about freedom. You being able to choose what you want to do. So I did retirement early and I hated it. It's miserable. Most people that retire older and don't do anything die. So it's great to be able to work part-time and have a passion for what you do and be able to take off when you want. That's fantastic. That's the life. Now, you're a chiropractor practicing on your own, you can't do that. You got associate doctors, you definitely can do that. You have real estate with passive income, you definitely can do that. And that's why I recommend doing both. Have the associate doctors to keep the office open so it's still making money. If you want to go to Europe for 2 weeks, go to Europe. You're still going to make money. That's not way on a self-practice. That's why you got to get out of self-practice as fast as possible or you're stuck. I know a lot of chiropractors, unfortunately, several of my chiropractors I know died in the last 3 years, 5 of them as a matter of fact. All of them under 50 or under 60. And I know they didn't, and none of them had associate doctors. And I know for a fact they didn't take much time off. And I go, I guarantee you, if you asked them a few days before they died, do you wish you'd have had associate doctors and taken more time off to spend with your family and vacations? I guarantee you right now they go, I am sick to my stomach that I sacrificed my life for my patients and not my life. I will guarantee you that's the answer you get. Because we as chiropractors, most of us, we like taking care of patients, we enjoy what we do, all that kind of stuff. And then we'll sacrifice time that we could spend with our family, being the assistant coach of the kids' basketball team or stuff like that. You can't do that if you're a chiropractor and you're working and you don't have associate doctors. You got associate doctors, you can do that. You want to take off for 4 or 5 days without shutting your office down? Most chiropractors are afraid to shut their office down because you'll always typically lose more money shutting your office down than any vacation you can take. So these are real issues. Okay. Passive income. You just have to have a passive income that's greater than your fixed expenses. You go, well, what's the easiest sources of passive income? You're lucky. The associate doctor is the easiest source of passive income. I'll give you an example. If you wanted $100,000 a year, how much money would you have to make to put in the bank to get a passive income from dividends of $100,000 a year? Well, let's start with $8 million. $8 million, well, you're going to have a 50% overhead. That takes you down to $4 million. You're going to be in 50% taxes. That takes you down to $2 million. $2 million at you got to need a 5% interest rate at $2 million roughly, 2.5% interest rate. You're going to have a 2.5 to 5% interest rate. Are people getting secure interest rates of 2.5% with their money? No. I'm talking secure, not trying to grow. People are trying to grow or risking them. I mean, the stock market just lost 24, 27% last year. So, and by the way, that was one of the major reasons I got in. I was always doing real estate, but I was doing the stock market with mutual funds for, some aggressive growth funds. And one day I lost $250,000 in the stock market, and I thought, what am I doing? I'm sending my money to somebody, a financial advisor, and then he's sending it to mutual funds. He doesn't know anything about how to run any of those businesses. Nothing. And he has no control over it, and neither do I. I go, what am I doing? I can hire an associate doctor for a heck of a lot less, and I can control it. I can be hands-on. I can hire, I can fire, I can manage, I can control that money instead of, just gone. It was just gone. There was nothing I could say or do. That's when I switched, big time. By the way, my friends that invest in real estate, that's typically when they switched to, when they got hit by the stock market. Okay, passive income. So passive income is one of the easiest ways. And it's the associate doctor's like the easiest, cheapest way. Remember, I say this all the time because every time I say associate doctors go, oh, I don't have $80,000 or $100,000 a year to pay an associate doctor. That's not how it works. We only have to pay them until they break even. That's if there's a base salary of $3,000 with a good percentage of upside, then that's only at a $50 per visit. That's only 13 visits. There's no more money coming out of your pocket after 13 visits. That's it. And it's 97% profit. Why? All the major overheads taken care of. Space, labor, equipment, all the big overhead categories, they're already being paid anyway. That's why. It doesn't cost much. Now, if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't know how to hire, you don't know how to train, then yeah, it doesn't matter how much money you have, you're probably going to lose it. Like anything. But it's one of the easiest sources of passive income. It's pretty easy to hire an associate doctor and get them to 80 visits a week. It's pretty darn, especially in our system. It's pretty easy. So passive income. So your passive income just has to exceed your fixed expenses. That's all. And now you have freedom. That's it. You don't have to have $10 million in the bag. I remember I had 2 older chiropractors come to me, and they'd made a lot of money, but they lost a lot of money. And that happens a lot. Well, they were worried now. They were in their mid-50s, late 50s. They didn't have the energy. They didn't want to put the energy into it. And they didn't have the retirement account. And they're like, holy smoke. Or you mean we're going to have to do that? And they're not being, they can't take time off. They were in jail. They were in psychological jail. And they're like, how do we get out of this? I go, well, it's easy. You're going to go right to associate doctors. As soon as you go to associate doctors, you can work part-time in your passive income. You just increased your income $100,000 a year plus, and you just gained your freedom. I said, that's your straight way out right now. And within 8 months, we had his first associate doctor. That doctor right now we just hired his 4th associate doctor. He opened the 2nd satellite, so he has 2 offices now. 4th associate doctor, getting ready to open his 3rd office. And he was worried when he came to me. Freedom. Gives you freedom, security. I tell you what, this healthcare profession, you already know, changes fast. And I say it all the time. Nothing like driving, this is a true story. I'd get stressed out with, all the cuts and UCRs and insurance is changing, and you know how all that is. Crap. And another rule from your state organization. I mean, it's like every decade they dump, from HIPAA to it's like every decade there's some other massive types of forms you have to fill out and adjust to. I went through OSHA, I went through the Mercy guidelines, COVID, there was one before COVID. I mean, it's like every decade they're throwing something at you. So I remember what I would do is I would get in my car at night. I'd just drive around and look at my real estate. I didn't care what happened to my chiropractor. There was a point where I didn't even care what happened to that chiropractic office because my net worth and my income was way greater in my real estate than my practice. You talk about the stress going way down. It went way down. Wealth, of course, wealth. Where else can you pick up a $200,000, $300,000 asset for nothing, or $3,000, $4,000, or $5,000? Where else can you do that? What other business category? You can't. Well, in real estate, when you know what you're doing, you can. Matter of fact, I'm going to show you how it's done. So the leverage is phenomenal to get an asset. If I wanted $300,000 in stocks, how much money do I have to come up with?
A lot more. 500, 800.
1.2 million. See? You don't even realize it. Why do you have to come up with 1.2 million? Do you have 300,000 to put in stocks? You got overhead. You got 50% overhead. That takes you down to 600,000. You think making money's free? There's no overhead with making money? The average overhead in a chiropractic office is 50 to 70%. You got to have $1.2 million to put $300,000. You see why it's not happening? You see why you're not getting wealthy with stocks and bonds? So it takes 1.2 million, 50% overhead to have 600,000. Are you going to be in a 50% tax bracket? Yes. If you don't know that yet, you better look at your taxes. I'm talking about all your taxes: city, state, federal, FICA, occupational, unemployment insurance. It's usually around 52%. It's like 52, 54% is what it is. So take that $600,000, you take out the taxes, now you're at $300,000. Now you got your $300,000 to put in stocks and mutual funds to a company you have no control over, and you don't know how they run their business. You don't know if their business managers or just got stuck on cocaine or not. Because you know that never happens. What, they just had another huge billion-dollar failure, right? The guy was a Ponzi scheme. He's taking the money in, he's moving it over here to catch him, and he's living in the Bahamas in this mansion. Well, he's not now. So, and of course, everything about wealth is security. It's freedom and security. That's the key with wealth. Pride. I was prideful that I could supply housing. That made me feel good. I could supply housing for people. Okay? Not everybody can be an owner. Not everybody's equipped to be an owner. Some people just need to rent. Some people need to rent the rest of their lives. Better than homelessness. Top 6 major financial reasons. Leverage, control the asset with little money. The more knowledge you have, the less money it takes to deal with real estate. The less knowledge you have, the more it takes. So if you don't know much, you could go to these loan programs, first-time residential buyers, and there's a big difference between residential versus if you're going to investment. So you'll get the best deal if you're going to be an owner, and the government makes it to where they got FHA programs where you can get into these homes relatively small down payments, 3%, whatever, okay? You have to be the owner. And actually one good strategy, there's several strategies in real estate, but one good strategy is just use that program to go in 2 years later, go to another home, you keep your property as rental property, and then do the same loan program, because you can keep getting the same loan program every 2 years as a homeowner. So they give you much better rates, and the amount you have to put down is much, much less. So leverage, control the asset, equity. These are the 6 big reasons. You just need to memorize these. I memorize them by going this. Here's the mnemonic. Lead CC. Lead CC. That's the mnemonic of why real estate is so valuable. 1, L, leverage. I can put down $10,000 and buy a $100,000 home. I can buy a $200,000 home. It depends how good I know how to negotiate, see? And that's without even using bank loans. So the more knowledge I have, where I don't even have to use realtors and bank loans, now I don't have to use realtor, don't have to use bank loans, and I know how to negotiate, I'm putting just a little bit of money down. recently bought a property for $10,000 down. It was a $300,000 property. Now, if I wanted that asset in stocks and bonds, I would have needed $300,000. That was just $10,000 owner financing. I signed the deal at, what's that barbecue, there's a barbecue place, Stony something. I signed the deal at the Stony barbecue place. That's called owner financing. So leverage, that's key, huge. You can get some good assets. Now, obviously, you want to make sure there's several factors. It's in good areas, so there's a demand for it. Things like that, and it definitely has to cash flow. You never want to buy something that doesn't cash flow. Okay, so equity is next. Every month there's equity being dumped into your house. Who's putting it in there? The renters. Okay, so here I am with you. Am I making any money right now? Yes. All my rental properties today had to put, every day you're paying a little something going into my equity. Okay? You got to think past being a chiropractor and adjusting patients just to make money. If you do that, you're going to stay broke. That's the lowest form of income you can make, is earned income. It's taxed the highest. And it takes your time. It's the worst form of income you can make. Okay, so equity. Leverage, equity, that's huge. Appreciation. I don't even pay attention to depreciation. Appreciation is like the last thing that I pay attention to. So, depends where you're at, what it is. I was in a real hot market. One year I had the piece of property and went up $40,000 in 2 years. I got a property right here off the water. It just increased $50,000 in a year and a half. That's not normal. I mean, you're going to be typically in a residential community and it's going to appreciate 1 or 2%. Like you're in middle of Kansas, middle of Missouri, that kind of, So that's not normal. But that's not, I don't care. If I got no appreciation, that's the very last reason, and that's what most people look at. Depreciation. This is the untold number. Depreciation. You guys have heard of people who make money and they don't pay any taxes? This is how. I've got a friend, he's a chiropractor. He picked up properties as he practiced. Had about 10 properties, retired at age 50. Had 10 properties. They were all good cash flowing properties. He makes a 6-figure income from those rents. Now I'm talking after expenses. He makes a 6-figure income. Okay? It's capital gains. Investment properties, capital gains. It's not earned income. Earned income is taxed at a much higher rate depending on if you're dependent, you're single, all that, those variables. But earned income is the highest tax. Capital gains, depending on the year, because it's like they change it every year, is only maybe 15, 20%, something like that. It's like when the Republicans go in, it comes down. Democrats go in, it goes up. That's how it kind of goes. Okay. So why does he... So number one, the money he does make isn't taxed as high. He's like paying half as much in taxes on that money. And then what's left over, he doesn't pay any taxes on. Why? Right there. Depreciation. It's called depreciation. You take the value of the property, divide it by 27 and a half years, and that's the amount of money you can put against your taxable income. So let's say it's $3,000 or $4,000 depreciation. So you take the value of that property, $200,000, $300,000, whatever, divide that into 27 and a half years. Okay, do the math. If you got a calculator on you right now, do the math. Take $300,000, 27.5 into $300,000, and what do you come up with? So let's say the property's worth $300,000.
$10,909.
So your depreciation from one property is roughly $10,900. That's $10,900 you do not have to pay taxes on your earned income or capital gains. So one home, now for you as a chiropractor, it's way more valuable than that. It's worth more than $10,000. How much is it worth? $40,000. How did that just happen? What do you have to do to come up with $10,000? You got to make 40. 50% overhead in your office, 20. 50% taxes, 10. So that $10,000 in equity, in real money, what did it make to you for your earning power? $40,000. You had to make 40. This is how people get rich. Not exchanging time for money and then getting taxed to hell on it. That's how you stay broke. Matter of fact, here's the simple formula right here. Here's the simple formula between getting wealthy and going broke. It's real simple. You're into earned income, that gets taxed the highest, versus capital gains. Gets taxed one of the lowest. Then you have overhead. You're a chiropractor and you have overhead. So you have earned income, you have 50% overhead. So you're going to lose half your money because you got to pay your staff, your rent, your office facilities. Is that okay? Then you have to pay 50% in taxes. Then that's going to be your earned income. And then guess what you'll do? You'll go buy taxable, depreciating liabilities with monthly payments. And that's why you'll stay broke. Where in this formula did you change it? You got to change this formula. So there's a difference. If I had passive income and it was capital gains, that helps a lot. Well, what if I had passive income and there were no taxes? That's great. See? So the two categories up front here, you can change if you know what to do. Matter of fact, I'll even show you before this seminar's over how to make your associate doctor 100% tax deductible. That's powerful. So it costs you $6,000 to train. You're making $100,000 a year at 50% when they only see 80 visits, and it's 100% tax-free. How much money would you have had to make on your own? Like $16 million after overhead, earned income taxes, all that stuff. So all of these things makes a difference. Is this what's taught in public schools? No. What's taught in public schools? To do the absolute worst thing you can do. Go get a job, have earned income, and you're limited by it because you got a job. You're taxed the highest because it's earned income. And then you buy non-tax deductible items because you're not self-employed and you don't know how the taxes work. So you go buy a car and you're in a 25% tax bracket and the car costs $10,000. How much did that car cost with taxes?
40.
You had to pay another percentage on that, didn't you? See? And then the next year, how much is that car worth? And the next year, how much is it worth? And you're cutting a check every month called payments. And what are those payments coming from? Earned income. If you're a chiropractor, earned income before overhead, right? After overhead, after taxes, earned income taxes. And then you're buying a liability, a non-tax deductible. In other words, it's costing you $10,000. So instead of it costing you $10,000, you got to pay taxes on that $10,000. You're in a 50% tax bracket, add $5,000. It costs $15,000, not 10. A real simple example that I give to drive it home, most people order a pizza every now and then. How much does your pizza cost? This is when it gets scary. You think it costs $20. Your pizza, you buy a large pizza, costs $17, you tip them $3. Okay? There's your 20 bucks. How much money did it take for you to pay for that $20 pizza?
Probably 40 bucks.
60.
60.
That pizza cost $60, not 20. See, if you thought like this, you would start spending different. You'd start acting different. Why did it cost 60? You had to make 60. 50% overhead to have 30. 50% in taxes to have 15. You're short $5. So it'd be 80, right? It cost you 80. 50% overhead to have 40. 50% taxes to have 20. So he had to make $80 that day for your $20 pizza. And the next day, what kind of an asset do you have? Fertilizer.
So quick question.
What I'm trying to do is show you a few really simple columns. Earned income versus capital gains income versus tax-free income. Do you have overhead or not? Is it earned income or capital gains? Is the purchase, so that's how you get the money. Now when you spend it, is it taxable or non-taxable? If it's taxable, you're paying more money on it now. Is it an asset or a liability? Is it going to go up or down tomorrow and the day after? And then do you have monthly payments tied to it? That's why people stay broke. They have the income, they get 100% taxed on it, they buy a non-taxable item, so they have to pay more for it, but they don't realize it. And then they even use their credit card. Now they got a monthly payment with a depreciating liability. And that monthly payment, that $50 monthly payment, $100 monthly payment, how much do you have to work as a chiropractor to pay that $100 monthly payment for your credit card? $400. Why? You had to make $400 at a 50% overhead to have $200 at 50% taxes to have $100 to pay your $100 credit card. And you wonder why you're not getting ahead. See how this works? So each of these levers you have to change. Well, the more you know, the more you can change them. Okay? It's rare that it's all going to be 100% great. In other words, you get the money, it's 100% free. You buy it, and it's 100% taxable, and it's a great asset monthly. See, it's rare that you're going to have all of the levers line up. You want to get as many levers to line up as possible. You prefer to have, when you make your money, you prefer to know your taxes so you can deduct as much as possible so you can keep more of it. That's why you got to know taxes. Number 2, when you get your money, you want to do everything you can to move it into a taxable asset. Or not taxable, tax deductible asset. Well, you got to learn taxes now. You got to learn the basics of taxes. You got to learn the basics of taxes. Then, is it going to be an appreciating asset or is it a non-taxable item? Well, that just cost you 50% more. Then, is it a monthly purchase versus a monthly asset? In other words, are you going to make money from that monthly now, or are you going to pay money into it? Those are the categories you need to pay attention to. LEADCC, depreciation. Capital gains. So you're not taxed like earned income. So it's much less capital gains. Now the great news about a chiropractor is, do we even need the capital gains from our real estate? I've never had to touch my real estate income. Never. From practicing, being a consultant, I've never had to touch my real estate. So what do I do with it?
Reinvest.
I reinvest it. I either pay down or it accumulates and I go get more. That's what I do. That's what's great about being a chiropractor. You don't need the money. That's what's great about it. You're sitting in a really good position. Cash flow. We just want to make sure cash flows. LEADCC. No other investment gives you all these. This is why 70% of the millionaires are millionaires in the United States from real estate. These laws do not exist in other countries. Depreciation, leverage, all that stuff doesn't exist in other countries. Now, this is the other main reason why. This is why we're investing in real estate and not baby dolls or the latest fad. Need. Real estate's a primary need. So remember Maslow's hierarchy of needs? What's the very first thing you'll spend time or money on? Survival. Survival. Food, oxygen, shelter. It's the highest need of the human being. Shelter. That's why. Everybody needs it. Period. It's not a choice. Housing, shelter. It's a primary need. And it's a monthly primary need. It's pain-based primary, and it's not pleasure. It's the highest pain motivator there is. In other words, that's what creates the highest motivation. And it's a repeat purchase, and it's the largest monthly purchase. Those are the 4 reasons. Real estate. That's it right there. Passive income, freedom, security, wealth, pride. LEADCC. These are the major legal reasons. These are the legal legislative reasons. These are the human reasons. That's why people get rich in real estate in the United States. They don't have these laws in other countries.